Talking about real scumbags, I found this interesting. You've heard of George Mason University? It used to be a little commuter school in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And the Times puts it this way: for years, students and faculty at George Mason paid little attention as Charles Koch and other conservatives helped transform their commuter school in the suburbs into a leading producer of free market scholarship. That effort, after all, was focused on a few specific departments like economics and law, and attracted little attention outside conservative circles. But the announcement last month that George Mason University would rename its law school in honor of Justice Antonin Scalia abruptly ended that indifference. The name change, and that it was tied to a $30 million combined gift from the Koch Foundation and an anonymous conservative donor, that name change focused attention for the first time in a serious way on whether the administration and trustees at George Mason had allowed Virginia's largest public university to become an ideological outpost. Now, to make a long story short, on Wednesday, the university's faculty senate passed a resolution urging the Board of Visitors and Administration, which is what they call them, to address their concerns about this renaming. A more pointed resolution to deny the name change will be revisited next week. In other words, what they're doing at George Mason, they don't want their law school named after this goddamn freak Antonin Fat Tony Scalia, who arguably was one of the most pompous, asinine, right-wing, what else can I throw in there? To hell with it, justices ever to sit on the Supreme Court in modern times. So Charles Koch, with his big-ass checkbook, I'll give you $30 million, but here's what you got to do. Oh, and plus, recently at Florida State University, the same thing happened. Koch made a huge donation at Florida State and then let the administration of Florida State know that if they wanted their $50 million, he would have the right to select at least 4 new professors. And the same idea was to be applied at George Mason University. Here's your $30 million, but I get to pick some of the professors. The problem here is a lot of these public universities are not endowed. They're not endowed like Stanford or Harvard or Yale or Princeton. They're constantly in need of money, and they're not getting it from the state legislatures. The state legislatures in so many of these states are run by half-witted bastards who may be wealthy from ripping off anybody they can rip off, lying, cheating, and stealing, but they don't give a shit about education. So why should they allocate money to public universities in their state? They just don't do it. So the administrations of these universities look around, and you're not going to get a lot of money from a labor union. You're not going to get a lot of money from your average taxpayer. So who does that leave? Oh, that's right. These right-wing devils that have this enormous pile, billions of dollars, that they can give with plenty of strings attached. Well, good on George Mason University for saying, wait a second, nuh-uh, we're not going to do it.